Hello dear movie lovers, welcome to Malayalam Movie Speaks. Today we speak the most awaited movie post Drishyam, none other than Drishyam 2. Let's speak the movie. On the night of 3rd August 2013, Jose, a convict on the run from the authorities for the murder of his brother-in-law, hides behind the unfinished building of a police station and by chance witnesses George Kuti emerging from it. Seeking to make amends with his family, he attempts to apologize to his wife but is immediately arrested by the police. 6 years later, George Kuti, Rani, Anju and Anu lead an affluent life. George Kuti, now the owner of a movie theatre, earns to produce a film of his own. He is in constant contact with Vinay Chandran, who is a renowned film producer with whom George Kuti seeks to develop the screenplay of the future movie. Although the family is comfortable, Anju has recurring episodes of epilepsy and is now a PTSD patient because of the direct consequence of her fears of being arrested due to her complicity in the murder of Varun Prabhakar. Envious of the family's meteoric rise in wealth, George Kuti neighbors have resorted to spreading rumors about Anju having very real connections with Varun. Rani's only source of solace is her friendly neighbor Sarita, a government clerk who is often abused by her alcoholic husband Sabu, a real estate broker. The Kerala police, having been humiliated in their inability to decipher the truth behind Varun's case, resolves to reinvestigate it under Thomas Baston, who is a new Inspector General of Police. Meanwhile, George Kuti has an encounter with Prabhakar, who vainly begs George Kuti to disclose the location of his son's remains. Meanwhile, Anu comes home for vacation and invites her friends for a house party despite Rani's objections. With George Kuti remaining aloof to her concerns, Rani spends more time with Sarita and on one occasion inadvertently blurts the truth about her family's complicity in Varun's death. Unbeknownst to her, Sarita and Sabu are actually police agents assigned to spy on George Kuti by Thomas Baston. After struggling to make amends with his own now estranged family, he seeks to find employment. While eavesdropping on a group gossiping about Varun's murder, he recollects George Kuti's presence on the night of his arrest. Realizing that George Kuti was indeed complicit in the murder, he tips Baston, who later summons Geeta and Prabhakar from the US. After the trio bribes him with a sum of rupees 5 lakhs, Jose reveals George Kuti's presence at then unfinished police station on the night of August 3rd. Armed with Joe's revelations, the authorities raid the police station, eventually unearthing a human skeleton. Concurrently, George Kuti, having noticed the events through his CCTV cameras, which he had set up around his cable TV office next to the police station, seemingly gives up. Armed with the discovery of human remains, Baston, Geeta and Prabhakar summons George Kuti's family for an informal investigation. However, George Kuti, Rani, Anu and Anju manages to maintain their alibi. Then, Geeta reveals a voice recording of Rani's earlier confession to Sarita that Sarita had bugged from the family earlier. Having exposed the family, Geeta turns to question Anju, resulting in Anju having another episode of epileptic fit. Distraught, George Kuti gives in and falsely confesses that he was the culprit in Varun's murder. With the police satisfied, the family is released, although Baston plots to arrest George Kuti later. Having been let go of the current period, the family muses on their supposedly bleak future. Later, the police formally arrests George Kuti and places him on a trial for Varun's murder. Concurrently, Vinay Chandran, having learned about George Kuti's arrest, pays a visit to Baston, Geeta and Prabhakar. He reveals that during his business collusions with George Kuti had fabricated a script for a future crime thriller loosely based on Varun's murder. He further reveals that George Kuti had published a novel titled Drishyam based on the film script, which was published under Vinay Chandran's name for copyright protection. The quartet is then informed that George Kuti had officially pleaded not guilty, with his legal defense submitting that he had been framed by the authorities, which had misused Drishyam's plot, a way to incriminate him. Realizing that George Kuti's earlier confession matches with Drishyam's plot, Baston deduces that George Kuti had created Drishyam and the confession as a part of a scheme to escape legal punishment. Despite the prosecution's opposition, the DNA test conducted on the unearthed remains reveals that it mismatches with Varun's DNA, catching the police by surprise. Stunned, Vinay Chandran diverges that George Kuti had fabricated an alternate climax for his film in which the hero, in his bid to evade legal punishment, would procure the remains of another youngster who had died under similar injuries as that of the villain by befriending the gravedigger of the cemetery where the selected youngster had been interred. The hero would also procure the information about the formal processes conducted on a human remains if it is discovered at a particular place, in the villain's case, Idiki, where the villain was originally buried. The hero would then befriend the security guard of the medical institution where the autopsy of the human remains would be conducted. It is revealed that on the day the human remains, which was originally Varun's, were unearthed, George Kuti had taken the youngster's remains to Kottayam Medical College, having learned that Varun's autopsy would be conducted here. Having already befriended and distracted the guard here, he had discreetly swapped Varun's remains with that of the youngsters before having Varun's remains cremated. With no official evidence to prove his culpability in Varun's murder, Joe's testimony had been dismissed as unreliable and suspicious. George Kuti is released on bail. Vinay Chandran also discloses that George Kuti's alternate climax had a tail end as well. The hero would discreetly transfer the villain's remains to his bereaved parents. Simultaneously, George Kuti has Varun's cremated remains anonymously handed over to Geeta and Prabhakar. At Varun's wake, Bastin convinces Geeta to let go of her enmity towards George Kuti, concluding that they will never succeed in punishing him. Bastin states that George Kuti's life is his punishment, because he must constantly endeavor in his efforts to protect his family from the ever-watchful eyes of the authorities. Meanwhile, George Kuti, who was watching the trial from afar, solemnly leaves. Drishyam 2 is a 2021 Indian Malayalam language crime drama thriller film written and directed by Jeetu Joseph as a sequel to their 2013 film Drishyam. The film stars the complete actor Mohanlal, Meena, Ansiba Hassan, Esther Anil, Siddiq, Asha Sharath and Murli Gopi. It is a thorough, gripping and entertaining sequel. The story takes place 6 years after the events of Drishyam. The film was released worldwide on 19 February 2021 to widespread critical acclaim, praising the narration style and performances, especially of Mohanlal. The film is being remade in Telugu and awaiting multiple language remakes and releases. The movie is available to watch in Amazon Prime Videos. Do enjoy the thrill by clicking the link below. If you wish to hear more Malayalam movies, please like, share and subscribe. Enjoy life and believe in yourself.